There we go. There's a fish.
It's the first one of the day. Not a giant, but I'll take it. Yes, folks, I'm bass fishing today. I know that most of you don't like bass videos, but I like bass fishing. Woo. Ooh, just fell off right there. First fish of the day, a little 1-pounder. It's late summer, which isn't exactly primo bass time. At least I've never found it to be. But it's this time of year that I come out and really heavily rely on my electronics to target bass in submerged weed beds. So, you know, there are always going to be some fish that are going to hold shallow, and a lot of guys focus on those fish. But after the spawn, the bulk of the fish are going to move out and hang out in deeper water. Okay. And so I like to target submerged weed beds and that are basically where the top of the weed bed comes up to 6 to 10 feet. And that leaves a good 4 or 5 foot of water, open water, between the surface and the top of the weed bed. And I find a lot of fish are going to hold in those weed beds, and I can power and finesse fish over the top of those weed beds and pull fish up and out, and generally find larger fish. Obviously that was just probably a little male, 1-pound male this morning, but I'm hoping we'll find some bigger ones in those weed beds today. And I'm going to go through some of the techniques that I like to use to pull fish up and out of those weed beds. The whole idea here is a lot of fish aren't super on the feed right now because they haven't felt they're not on that classic fall feed where they're just aggressively hitting everything. There's a lot of fish just kind of being lazy this time of year. They don't feel any sense of urgency yet. It isn't really getting cold yet. The daylight, we're only losing a minute or two a day still. They just aren't on the chomp. So you got to cover a lot of water and find those few active fish.
There we go. There's fish. On the drop.
Another nice one. Very nice. He hit that just on the cast as it dropped. That was in about 14 feet of water. And the weed line comes up to about 6-7 foot. So just what I'm looking for. Pretty little guy. Okay, so here's what I'm looking at for on the fish finder. I'm moving slow, so the vegetation looks really smeared, but I'm getting a 15-foot reading on the bottom, but you can see that weed line comes all the way up to 7 foot. And I'm bringing that spinnerbait right across here. That's kind of what I'm looking for. It's a giant. It's a giant. It's gonna grow up to be a monster someday, but not right now.
There we go.
Oh, another dink. All right, spinnerbait. Where'd the big fish? Spinnerbait's nice because you can fish it shallow, so you can rip it really fast and shallow, or you can do a countdown, let it get down there deep, pull it right across the tops of those weeds. Usually it catches a bigger grade of fish, but last couple fish I've gotten pretty small. Alright, we're going to switch up to a burner worm from Gambler. I fish these on a wide gap hook, but they have a big tail that's designed to be retrieved slowly. So what I'll do is I'll cast this out, let it fall into the top of those weed beds, and then slow retrieve, and that tail will rotate like almost like a swim bait tail. And it's a really good way to target bigger fish. It's a big presentation, obviously. So I'll let that fall into the weeds, and then I'll just start a slow retrieve. It's kind of a cool plastic because it lets you sort of punch weeds initially, so you can get that sort of reaction strike, and then you can fish it like a swim bait back to the boat or kayak. And since it's such a big lure, and I fished a 3/8 ounce weight on the front of it, tungsten, it really has a big presentation. It tends to get you a little bit bigger fish. Of course, on the fall, that tail is just going crazy. And you can also just rip it across like weed beds like you would a spinnerbait or anything else, too, which is nice. Very versatile for a plastic worm. There we go, a little bigger fish. That's the burner worm. It'll come through for you every time. It is absolutely one of my favorite lures. Very durable too. Got a nice garlic scent. Calm down. Calm down there, buddy. A little bit bigger guy. Nice. Not a giant we're looking for, but I'll take it. I pin my weights pretty tight to that worm using silicone stops. This is just a red flake. He hit that one on the retrieve, not on the fall.
There's fish.
Not a giant. It's amazing how small a fish would go after those burner worms. Surprised they got that guy. Last cast down to the wire. I haven't had a bite in an hour and a half. I think it's over for the day. Definitely a morning bite today. Well, that does it for me, guys. I'll see you next time out on the water. Just remember, fish smarter, not harder. Bye, guys.